Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
He's the fighter of the night, man. He's the champion of the sun. All right, I'm done.
Oh, you're done? So I got like at least 3 more verses when we first logged on. He just kept going and I didn't know what he was talking about. So that's why he tattled on me, Tyler, about not being a fan of Always Sunny, because we had to dive down that hole.
I mean, it's literally I don't know how to explain it. And I think Rob McClenney has a lot of fans because of the Wrexham thing now, which is how you know him, and your husband obviously knows him.
Well,
But like
Nick watched Always Sunny. He's been trying to get me to watch it. I'm the only one that has no interest. So
I haven't watched it.
It's like the worst people you could possibly imagine. Like just terrible, god-awful human beings just going through life being terrible human beings and all the things that come along with that. And for me, it's like it reminds me of my childhood.
see, when you lay it out, the first part, it's like, but why would I want to watch that? And I was telling Steven, I think my problem is like, if stuff gets too cringy on like a show, if I get like too uncomfortable for the person, then I won't watch it. Like I can't do it.
Pretty uncomfortable show.
I have my own anxiety. I don't need a show to add to it. Like, you know?
Like where else are you going to see Danny DeVito in a leotard hitting people with a trash can in a wrestling ring? You know what I mean?
Word. Yes.
Nowhere else.
So I'm excited to watch that clip. So, wow, we epically got off track right from the beginning. I love it. So
Never happened.
I wanted to go.
Steven had a wonderful idea for today's episode that I'm excited to dive into. And so I feel like you should explain it best because I didn't grab what he said. I didn't want to interrupt him and hit record a couple minutes ago, but it was perfect. So just rewind and say it again, please.
So I think something that's not really talked about often is this idea of overcoming adversity and how we all have adversity in our life in some way, shape, or form. And there are plenty of adversities where we are going to work hard and we're going to push through. And, you know, that good old fashioned elbow grease is going to get us through it and we're going to succeed and it's going to be great. And then other adversities are things that, you know, maybe we don't have control over. They're not things to overcome. They're more so like a burden to carry. And it's going to dictate a lot of things in our lives and have a huge impact on it. And don't think that I'm some super thoughtful person. I saw this as a post from Adam Grant the other day. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that we use that a lot of times when it comes to like life occurrences and things that are going on in life where we maybe can't control something like, yeah, it's just something I got to deal with. It is what it is, especially as we age and maybe some things change and health changes. But I think this industry, I'm doing my air quotes if you're not on YouTube, the industry of fitness really tries to sell people this idea that you can just fucking blast your way through whatever you want. Hard work prevails. It's a great feeling. It's a great thought, but it's just not the truth in so many different frames. So I thought it would be cool to maybe have us share some of the things that we've encountered that are like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not going to push through this. Maybe this is just something that I have to be aware of, and it's going to impact my fitness journey, my health, whatever, as I go. And then these were some other things that I was really able to work through. And then maybe get into some of the ones that we see that our clients and the individuals that we work with also struggle with.
I like it. I pulled up the post that you were talking about. And so he said, Resilience is not about being invulnerable to hardship. It's about accepting adversity as part of life. Some struggles are challenges to conquer, and others are weights to carry. Strength doesn't come from avoiding setbacks. It comes from refusing to be defined by suffering. And that's my favorite part of it, though, is the last part. And I feel like that's like a decision you kind of have to make. And, you know, no matter what it is that's piling on top of you, if it's just, you know, death by a million cuts, where it's like a bunch of tiny things that would be manageable on their own, but they're just coming at you like so fast. Or maybe it's, you know, something gigantic that's like, you know, life shaking and stuff like that. It, you know, you can let it, I'm somebody who lets stuff crush me, where like things can happen and my immediate reaction is just to be like, oh my God, it's all going to shit. Everything's going to go wrong, and like freak out. Whereas Vic is the exact opposite. And he's just like, it's literally fine. It's not that big of a deal. Like, and it has to pull me down from stuff. And that's something that, I mean, we've been married for 13 years. And I'd say like that is one of the like number one things that he has helped me with, is trying to not easily fall into like a victim mentality, or not even like a victim mentality, but just the like, well, shit, now it's all going to happen kind of thing. So not like, why is all of it happening to me, but just like being anxious about what's coming around the corner all the time. You guys, Tyler, what do you have? Like, what comes to mind when Stephen brings all it up?
Yeah. I would say, you know, I can tend to be like probably similar to Christina, where it can be easier for certain things to crush me, or the expectations that I think that we can tend to put on ourselves. And if we're having trouble, you know, reaching those expectations, or whether maybe like they actually, you know, vibe with who we are and who we are not, that I find, you know, I think can give me quite a bit of that anxiety that you're talking about, in, you know, where do I want these things to actually go? What are those expectations of myself? Do they work with who I am as a person? You know, does it align with me? And so that is kind of where I tend to go there. You know, when we're kind of talking about this, and I think it does apply to that client side, where you know, I think we work with a lot of people, and they do have a lot of these expectations that they put on themselves. And I think you see a lot of where it's like one bad week and it's like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do this. Or, you know, something comes up and it maybe messes with the timeline a little, or whatever. It's really trying to, I think, be realistic about those expectations, and then make sure that they do align with who you are, and are those actions reaching those expectations.
And I think you hit on a good point here, where I think a lot of people get tripped up, where they really end up feeling discouraged, and it's creates more of that all or nothing mentality. Is you're trying to redefine oftentimes who you see yourself as, who you are as a person. And so we are trying to change identity more often than not when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to get in shape, when we're trying to start going to the gym. We're like, okay, I have seen myself and my identity as this person who doesn't do these things. And however, positively or negatively, oftentimes, unfortunately, negatively, you want to word that about yourself, right? And so as soon as we kind of hit that point where we do something that doesn't line up with that new identity that we have for ourselves, for who we think we want to be, who we want to be moving forward, it creates that real big roadblock, right? It's not that we're avoiding those setbacks, they happen. But if we hit that setback and just say, fuck it, and give up, and it's all to the wind now, that's where the problem really lies for a lot of people as they're undertaking the new stuff.
Right.
They're understanding that everybody else you look up to out there online, they all have setbacks. They've all had speed bumps that they've hit on this journey of life. They all still probably do have their own vices and such. Just because we don't see them or they don't broadcast them the same way doesn't mean that they don't exist. And even if they're doing a very good job now, they have probably had those issues in the past, because we all have to learn and progress through this. So I think one of those parts about like the resiliency and kind of making it through those struggles is also recognizing like, you know, I don't know how to put this. We'll do it really dorky. You wouldn't expect a Padawan to go out there and fight Darth Maul, right? No, you'd want a full-fledged Jedi. So if you're just a Padawan, why are you trying to go and fight Darth Maul? You
Right.
know, you're not ready to save Leia yet. You got some work to do.
Hey guys, Coach Lexi here, and I am here to take a moment to recognize one of our podcast sponsors, Cure Nutrition, and more specifically, I want to talk about their product Aura. That is AURA. I've personally been taking Aura for the past several months, and I absolutely love it. Aura is Cure Nutrition's gut health and immunity supplement, and it has ingredients such as turkey tail, chaga, licorice root, ginger, turmeric, vitamin D, and zinc. So it is a really great supplement to just add into your daily regimen for a little bit of a boost in immunity and gut health. So if you are interested in trying this product or any of the other products on Cure Nutrition's website, be sure to use the code, all one word, for a discount. Now back to the show.
That's
I'm
what
not even
I
a Star
like,
Wars fan.
having like something that I'm constantly working on, or and it shifts like with goals, but for me, that like that's where fitness and whether it's been physique focused or performance focused or whatever, like having something that I'm chasing for me has over the years made it so that it stayed like fun and has like a finish line feel to it, but then it's also like a continuation, right? And so for me, like my stuff I've had like injuries as like setbacks and things like that. For the most part, I haven't had anything huge like recently that's been like a big setback like in life or in fitness with things. Like luckily things have been very cruisy, which for somebody who gets anxious, then I'm always like, wait, it's coming. It's been too good. But so for me, I'll fall into like where I'll just be like in a funk for like a month. And, it's one of those things where, we've talked a lot about like mental health and stuff like that on here and how it relates to different things. And for me, that's where like fitness will become like a tether with stuff where it's like, okay, well, that's just my consistency thing. Maybe I'm not driving super hard. Like it depends on what I'm like trying to work through, where maybe it like lends itself for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go take it out on the gym and like I'm going for PRs or whatever. Or maybe I'm just checking boxes. And that's what I kind of love about it is I know my like check the box stuff where I can just come back to that. And if I feel like everything else has gone to shit, I have that where I can go and I can turn on the same music and I can pull up the same workouts and I can just put the work in and kind of tune everything else and just focus on that for a little bit. And while we don't want that to be like our only method of working through things, I think it can be really powerful. And what a lot of people, especially as they're getting into stuff, it'll be like, well, that's the last thing I want to do. Like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go do these things. And it's like, yeah, but maybe you should. Like maybe instead of sitting at home and like brooding about whatever it is, or, like unless you have something that's going to help like fix the situation or be more productive, or if you're gonna go take a nap, like go for that. But like if you're just gonna sit at home, why not just go and try for the workout or something and just see if you just keep up that consistency and like how that feels. Because I feel like the confidence, like a lot of confidence from maintaining something like that can bleed over into the rest of your life and then feel a bit more resilient for getting things done.
So I remember the words. It's self-efficacy. So there was another podcast where I couldn't remember the wording. Self-efficacy is your essentially confidence, your ability to know that you can succeed in a single situation. And when we build up self-efficacy above, like against multiple situations, we build up confidence and resiliency overall. I feel like the way Henry Rollins worded it was very well. 200 pounds is always 200 pounds. And I think that's why so many of us find the gym to be like a peaceful, like manageable setting when a lot of other things are going crazy in life, is because when a lot of things feel like they're out of control, like that's something we can control. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a home base to get back to. And I think for a lot of us, the gym kind of ends up being that. It's like our home base. We're like, okay, I know I'm safe here. I know what to expect. At the very least, for this amount of time while I'm here, I know what's going to happen in life, and it's in my control for the most part. Whereas, once you're out and about in the world, it can be tough. So I think for a lot of us, that's probably part of it for why we are good with the gym, and for why, especially when stuff's hard, we are still willing to go to the gym. We're like, I got to go to my, I don't like the words, but safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like as you eventually get past it, maybe being the thing you don't want to do, and you kind of push through that hard aspect of it, like it then eventually does become part of who you are. So like there's certainly days where I don't feel like going to the gym, but it's like I don't even think about it anymore. I just go. And it's like Christina said, maybe it is just going in, checking boxes, get a little sweat going, and then that's that. In and out 1 hour, but at least you're still kind of continuing to tether yourself, right? And keep yourself into your routine. And I think the more you can do that when things are hard, I think that's going to help kind of get you out of that hard spot instead of sitting at home, brooding, getting in your own mind, and I think spiraling in a whole different way. So continually pushing, I think, through that initial hard part is so important to then establishing that longer view of things of, okay, well, now I just go to the gym. That's who Tyler is. I don't really think about it a whole lot. So that's a big part of it too.
It's funny because I was thinking about it while I was at the gym this morning. And like, so Claire turned 2 yesterday. And like 6 weeks ago, I want to say, I checked in with Paul, and I was not where I wanted to be. I knew I was not going to be where I wanted to be by her 2nd birthday. For whatever reason, I had set up this expectation of where I needed to be by the time she turned 2. And I sent him like the poutiest check-in in the world and was like, I'm a bad example of like what women can do postpartum. Like it was so mean to me. And I don't know like why I was in like such a mood about it. And then it was funny because today I was at the gym. A picture got taken of me recently and my arms looked skinny. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to the gym and I'm going to destroy them. And I was so mad at that picture. I was like, I'm never going to feel my triceps again after this workout. And I was there and I like caught myself in the mirror. I'm exactly where I was like 6 weeks ago or whatever. And I was like, damn, you've got a 2-year-old. And I was like proud of myself. And it like dawned on me where I was like, it's so stupid, like how this stuff can get in your head. But it can become one of those things where like, I let that crush me for like days. And I got into my head about who I am as a coach. Like it was one of those things where I spiraled 100%. And I was like, but kept hitting my workouts and stuff like that. And like a big boost for me, like this month that I was surprised by was, so I smashed the shit out of my toe and my foot on like March 1st. And then basically up until like last week, I like stopped running altogether. I tried to run on it the first couple of days. It bruised way more and got extra bad. And so I had to stop for like 3 weeks. And my race is in 7 weeks. And so I missed out on like 3 really important long runs. And I was very stressed out. Got back to running like as soon as it felt good. And my runs have been faster. And so like the scary 3 weeks that like we'll tell people like, oh, you'd have to stop like 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. Stopped for that long. And like even with endurance training, your body can respond pretty quick if you take that much time off, and it was able to bounce back like right away. And so it's one of those things where now I can tell myself, and like I start leaning in marathon training on all of my previous like any athletic endeavors. Like you've done this before, you've done that before, you can get through this workout. And having those things translates like hugely into my like everyday life. And so like my big thing is like trying to get people to see the focus of like the glory of athleticism and just having your body do things that are fucking cool so that you can just say you did it, that you didn't go into the gym and leg press this much because like you're trying to make your quads look bigger or something like that. But also like, what else can you do with your body that's cool? Steven wants to go smash people's face into the ground while he lays on top of them. Like, that's cool. I couldn't go do that. For me, if I go destroy a workout that I hated, like, I'm officially at the point where I hate running, or at least I hate running for longer than an hour. And like, I'm so over it, but you keep going and you do it. And at the end, you're like, fuck yeah, I am cooler than I thought. And then run with that and just be excited about it and stop letting the other stuff get in your head.
So I think like there's two things here that I think are interesting. One is you overcame the adversity that was the injured toe, right? And it's different than what most people think that's going to take. You needed to chill the F out. You needed to not do those long runs.
Indeed.
I am in the midst of dealing with the ACL reconstruction surgery. There's a lot of things that I cannot do. So for me, overcoming the ACL injury means continuing to go to PT, continuing to know when to back off, knowing that there are still a lot of things I can't do. So it almost like when you get those injuries, it's almost like that twofold thing. Like you can overcome it, but how you overcome it is also by accepting it and then just kind of carrying that's the truth of it with you and getting through that. So eventually you can return to sport. Eventually you can get back into it. And I've officially been cleared to roll softly with the old guys.
Yay.
So,
Woo.
but that's 8 months post-surgery, like super soft with the older dudes, not re-tearing it. Still not back to what I wanted to do. You came back better in a very short period of time. So I think but had you tried to run through that, it probably would have been worse.
Yeah.
If I were to try and do something, I can almost guarantee you I would be tearing either my new ACL or the patella tendon where they took the new ACL from. So there are definitely some of them where it's both, if that
Right.
makes sense. To where you have to understand, like, okay, these are my limitations. I might be able to work through these, but I have to keep these limitations in mind also.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
That's it. I kind of find it like funny, like how the answer always seems to be taking a step back, like, and just kind of like both of you take a step back, rest, like, and that's so hard for us to do. And I think, you even look at that with a lot of like life situations when maybe like you start to spiral. It's just trying to take that step back and go, whoa, okay, like, let's maybe just take a breath. Let's look at it from a bigger viewpoint. And I mean, that's very difficult to do. That does take, I think, a lot of self-awareness. And I think there's a certain amount of resiliency it takes to be able to understand, to step back and go, maybe pushing it right now isn't the answer. But I find that some of the hardest, for clients, even, of like, whoa, let's step back and let's just focus on being consistent with tracking macros for a little bit. Like, let's enjoy life. Like, we don't always have to be like, I need it now, like, go, go, go. Like, there is a lot of that, like, just, okay, like, let's take it a step at a time. We're going to get there. But like, you've already got a lot of stress going on. Like, let's just not add any more at this point. Like, let's learn how to do all these things at once. So yeah, it seems paradoxical, especially like how we started the conversation of like, in this industry, it's like, jam your way through no matter what, David Goggins style, right? Like, that's such a huge messaging. And so it seems backwards to take a step back, but I think that's such a great way to take those steps forward when you're able to kind of slow things down and really kind of bask in the moment, if you will.
But like, it wasn't even David Goggins. That's been the no pain. Like, don't get me wrong, David Goggins, there are plenty of people who have worked through adversity. That's great. But it's been before that. It started with the no pain, no gain, which has been around since I ever even knew what a weight was.
Yeah.
Like, you got to work hard. Sweat is your fat crying.
That was always my favorite.
It's like this stuff that feels good because we put in a lot of effort, but doesn't always necessitate that we get the kickback that we want on that.
I think it's being able to, be at a place where you can like look at the big picture and the long term. And that's what you have to do, right? You have to step back and then look at all of that. And so like, I could have kept trying to run or, like keep going or something. But I knew that realistically, if I did that, they weren't going to be fast. It wasn't going to be building anything. It was going to hurt. And so like what, just to prove I could run on a broken toe? Like, I don't need to do that, right?
Cool, man.
Wow,
That's so
awesome.
impressive.
Now you're
Like,
going to be even worse off, 10, 15 years from now.
right. Well, and so, that's so I started thinking about it and I did that like first one and I could feel how much my weight was shifting into the wrong hip and how much like my other foot, I was rolling my foot onto my big toe. And I knew then I was going to start like building up like a callus there and things. And so there's stuff where when you've been doing all of this for like a really long time, you can like pay attention to the little things and be like, I'm already causing a problem and this is dumb. And that was like the same thing. And I mean, that's where having a coach helps, right? Like with Paul and I, like I started working with him again because I wanted to get to a good place before marathon training like ramped up too much. And like 6 weeks ago, he was like, Christina, this is dumb. You know what to do. You should probably just reverse diet for a while and we'll talk later. And I was like, yeah, I know, fine. And so like went ahead and did that. And of course it was the smart thing to do. But like having somebody in your pocket, they can help you be like, okay, like let's make the smart choice here. Let's look at the big picture. And like, would it have been worth it for me to be like, we talked recently about mini cuts and stuff like that. 6 weeks ago, I could have been like, Claire's birthday is in 6 weeks. I could slash all the calories, continue to do all of this running, drive myself completely into the ground just so I can say I lost the 3 pounds and like, no one will give a fuck. I'll still be wearing the same clothes. Like it wouldn't have even been a meaningful change. But
Yep.
how often do we talk to people where they're like, so my husband lost his job and we're going to have to move. My mother-in-law is moving into the house. I'm going to have to stop taking classes. I'm really stressed out right now. And I just feel like if I lost 7 pounds, I'd feel so much more confident in myself and able to get things done. Like I've had those conversations where people were like, but I just know it. And I went to a fucking seminar of coaches that we've talked about before where they brought shit up like that. And they were like, I don't care if she's a single mom of 3 kids who can't pay her bills and stuff like that. If it mattered to her, she'd find a way to lose that weight and get the confidence and stuff like that. And I'm like, fuck you, bro, because we also have a life to live. Like, nobody is laying on their deathbed at 95 and being like Arnold Schwarzenegger is not going to lay there and be like, the coolest part about my whole life, my giant muscles. Like,
Actually, he might.
I
He
mean,
very well might.
no,
He's done a lot of really other cool stuff.
hey,
But
he's going to probably be
Terminator, I
about,
think, would
what
be
is
up
it,
there.
Lulu in Georgia or something? Like, what are his, the donkey and what's the other? Oh, mini horse, right?
Yeah.
Listen, he's done like way more interesting things in his life, even beyond the fact that he was Mr. Olympia and like all of the cool, like that shit. There's other stuff. And I think that's where you just have to shift how you look at exercise. And for whatever reason today, I was sitting at the gym and I was looking around the room and I was just thinking to myself, like, I wish more people were excited about that and just exercising to figure out what your body is capable of and like getting excited about pushing athletic boundaries over just like, well, I do a million lateral raises for bigger adults,
Athletics over aesthetics, baby. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But and so I had I don't know, we'll call it an interaction where somebody was reversing. And it's why I think like being able to, if you have a hard time taking a step back, to be like very like non-emotional with yourself and really get that good viewpoint, it helps to have somebody else in your life to do it. So whether that's Vic or Paul or Tyler or whoever, it could be a friend, it could be a coach, but somebody who doesn't get caught up in that emotion. So this person came to me on super low calories, not being successful, gaining weight. Well, we started reversing. This person continued to lose weight through the reverse. Every single week they did a good job and they were losing weight. So much so that we got to a spot that was quite realistic. They were still losing weight every week. but they were so hell bent on saying that they're going to get on stage this year and do it, that they're like, I want to do this. I said, hey, I'm going to wish you the best of luck, because this is not the right choice. We've not been doing this for that long. You're still making really great progress while we do this, and you want to go back into something that's going to be harder, more difficult, and put more stress on you and your family. It's not something I'm going to get behind. I think there is a time and a place for that. I know that it might be later on down the road if you don't do it now, but this is one of those things that we want to say, hey, I'm going to forego this right now, because sure, can you maybe be resilient and get through that and diet really hard and do that stuff? Probably. But what comes after? What comes after? Because what comes after is going to be that part that you're going to have to carry that weight of the decision and what you chose to do, which means we're going to be set up for a lot of weight gain, a really hard time with our hunger signaling and everything else that comes along with that, and all the other stuff that comes with just the continual dieting. And so I feel like sometimes when we're resilient, we give ourselves more weight to carry. So we're like, yeah, I'm going to be resilient and work hard through this. So now you're doing a lot more hard work to get to what you want in the first place. And on top of that, you're giving yourself so much more weight to carry after you even get to that point for what comes next. And we don't like really stop to take a step back and really look at the whole of the situation and the decisions that we're making. And we end up making that weight maintenance, that healthy lifestyle, the healthy body weight, or whatever we want out of the fitness stuff, that much harder on ourselves. And so we continually shoot ourselves in the foot. And over time, we stop shooting ourselves in the foot and we start shooting ourselves in the calf. And then we start shooting ourselves in the quad. You know what I mean? So because it continually gets worse, because we're unable to take that step back and really look at it and say, is this a time for me to work hard? Or is working hard only going to make it harder right now?
Yeah. And I feel like that's like probably like an avoidance mechanism a little bit, right? Like where people are like, well, I just don't want to deal with anything. And so you just keep filling your stuff, your plate up with things. And I mean, like with all of it, there's a time and a place, right? But I like when you were talking about that, all I thought about was maximum recoverable volume everywhere, like in all of life, in the amount of work that we're taking on, in what we're signing ourselves up for, or volunteering to do, or socially, or, even to how many meals you're committing to cook this week, and looking at it and just making sure that if we're in I realized what I was saying before when I was talking about athletics over aesthetics, that a lot of people listening are obviously bodybuilders, and like that you're competing in a sport. So that's different if you're competing, like training to compete. But if you're in like an off season, that's why I think it's so smart to make sure that you're really dialing in, looking at all of those areas, right? Because no matter what your sport is, if you're going into a prep or you're training for a race or a powerlifting meet or something, you're going to get like super dialed in there. And that's your thing. That's the star of the show. And so if we're not in that phase, that's a great time to kind of clean up like the rest of stuff and make sure that when we do try to go into the next one, we took care of things. We're in a solid place. We're in a good rhythm. In that situation where we're on autopilot, we pull up to the gym and it's like, I didn't want to come here today. And like, you don't even realize that you went. And getting into that place where we're focusing on the joy of it, the ease of it, the consistency of it can help, be that tether again, where if we're going through something and we just need to find consistency and kind of turn our brain off and just go, it can be that thing. But you can't let it just be the, oh, well, the David Goggins stuff, like where, I mean, he has done great things, but where it's just like always more, like eventually you do run out of useful time that you're spending on this and you could be doing something else,
Well, I almost feel like people have forgotten how to just be satisfied, like, and happy. Like, that's okay. Like, it's okay to be satisfied at this, even if it, you don't always need to have more. At a certain point, the time, maybe the more doesn't align with who you are. Actually, you might convince yourself you want it, but maybe there's a reason you're not reaching it. maybe it's just not part of who you are as a human being, and you need to be just then satisfied. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I feel like that could actually going to lead to a lot more happiness, where, I mean, it's a fine balance, I think, like, of that satisfaction and pushing yourself and still trying to be better. But yeah, at a certain point, there has to be a level of self-awareness to go, you know what? Maybe I don't need more. Maybe with what I have right now is fucking awesome, and I'm just going to enjoy that.
Man, that self-acceptance is tough, and I don't know that I want to do that yet. But so I think there's obviously and to maybe lighten it up to make it more palatable, because obviously we've got pretty deep there for a bit. Like, I think things that are adversities that we're not going to just be resilient through all the time. So like for me, I think I just kind of tipped a little bit on one, like your dieting history, your history with how you've dieted and dealt with food. Like, this might be for a lot of people something that you are not simply going to be resilient through. You are not going to be able to be resilient through that 600 calories that it's going to take, through the hours and hours of cardio that it's going to take, if you've already been doing that for a long time and you're not seeing results. You are not going to just push your way. You're not going to Goggins through it. You need to understand that that is your recovery resilience, right? This is where we have to be resilient in the time where we're going to be in a place where we're not dieting, where we have to recover, allow the body to get back to a spot where, hey, we can get a response again and work from there. But there are definitely other, like, I'll say, things that you're not just going to work hard through that we don't often love to talk about. And a lot of them come into play with like genetics, who our parents were, and some of the traits that passed down. So yes, our choices are some of them, like with diet history, whether we were informed enough or not. Unfortunately, that happens for a lot of people. But our genetics are going to dictate a lot of things too. What we're good at, what we're not good at, how strong we are in certain lifts. All that stuff comes into play as well. And the one that nobody wants to hear, how well you respond to diets, whether you're prone to holding more or less body fat, how much you respond to putting on muscle. I mean, these are all things, because I know you guys both are probably in a similar boat as me, right? We all have all right, they're probably like average genetics for bodybuilding stuff. We put on muscle, okay, we respond, but we're by no means anything crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I'm
that's
not
something we all
avoiding
had to deal with.
workouts because I don't want something to grow. I want like the Diraja problem where like, oh, I can't train that because it'll get too big.
Yeah.
No.
But like, those are things that we've all had to deal with. And I think it's funny because people probably think that we're just trying to be resilient and work through it. I honestly don't give that much of a shit about it anymore. I go to the gym because I enjoy the gym. I enjoy the stability of it and like that piece of my life for what it is. But could you imagine if I'm continuing to try and be like this professional bodybuilder? I'm trying to be on stage with Nick Walker and all them, and I think that I'm going to do it. And I haven't accepted the fact that, hey, my genetics are my genetics. And if I don't really step back and sit with that and say, okay, and let that inform my decisions, probably going to be having a bad time. It's going to be like that South Park ski instructor.
Yeah.
Probably not going to look like Ryan Gosling anytime soon.
You know what? I don't even like Ryan Gosling that much. I'm much more of a fan of
Just saying.
Ryan
Or
Reynolds.
Zac Efron.
Ooh,
Rather look
have
like
you
Ryan
guys
Reynolds.
seen Roadhouse yet?
No.
Half of it. I haven't finished it yet. Or like Zac Efron and Iron Claw. Just not going to look like that, all right? Like, it ain't happening.
He did look good. Yeah. Sidetracked by people we just
Roadhouse.
Well, like, you guys have both dealt with that same thing, right? Like the entire
Yeah.
idea of I'm getting into bodybuilding, I compete, and then recognizing, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I have to go. There's this huge middle ground in between. Can I make that voyage?
So sitting just to my right, I have my collection of second place trophies that I have received from bodybuilding competitions. And Vic pulled them out of storage and was like, look what I got for your office. And I was like, Thanks. And I mean, I'm proud of them and like the work that I put into it, but it's one of those things where like, if you ain't first, you're last. And, it's
I
like,
was high on meth when I said that.
I definitely got to a place where for me, and like, of course, there's people who figure it out and who make it happen and stuff, but I was like hot and heavy into competing for like 3 or 4 years straight. And then as I started coaching more, got a little bit more busy with that. And then we just kept adding people to our household and stuff. For me, it was like, like I stopped nursing Cora because I wanted to lose weight faster, like our second child, who's going to be 9. And I made like decisions that I looked back and was like, I started competing that summer and was like, oh, would I do that again? And after having Ben and Claire later on, like I was like, no, like I wouldn't go back and make those choices that kind of like altered what I would have done with that very short period of their lives that just goes away and never comes back. And so for me, I love bodybuilding. I love going in and I love that I have the control to reshape my body. Is it the shape I've been trying to get it to? No. Is it a hell of a lot closer? Yes. I was talking to my mother-in-law this last week because my 20-year reunion is coming up and is in June. And I was like, I don't know why I want to go because I don't keep up with a ton of people. And I'm like, the worst in big crowds in those kinds of settings. I'm just like awkward. And so I was like, realistically, I'm going to walk into this room and I'm just going to hold Vic's hand, only want to talk to him, have 2 drinks, I'm going to leave. And and she was like, I know exactly why you want to go because you look amazing and your husband's hot. And so, yeah, you should go to your 20-year reunion. I'll watch the kids. Like she was great about it. And I was like, you know what though? If I looked back, I hear so many people say like, I just want to look like I did in high school or in college. And I'm like, oh, not me, man, she was out of shape. She might've been an alcoholic. Like it was not a good look going to like a big party school and everything. And like, now I'm in a significantly better place. And, so like being able to just look at everything like big picture and say, I'm working towards where I want to be. There's still work that I can do, and being excited about that part of the process can be just like so transformative with how you approach it.
Tyler, like I think so you were prepping for a while there and decided obviously that it like wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
So like what was it for you that like helped you to recognize that resilience and fighting through whatever else to make a prep happen wasn't the right choice for you?
That was after Quinn too, right?
Yeah, she had just turned 2. So like I knew like before Quinn, like I knew I'd wanted to compete again at least one more time. Like that was my thought process then. I waited 2 years because I figured, you know what, like we're kind of in more of a rhythm with a kid, stuff like that. And I started and like, I was just miserable. Like it sucked.
Yeah.
And not miserable in the sense of
In a
like,
good way.
yeah, and not of like the prep meals, right? Like not, but like I would be angry that like I had to like track my dinner when like I'm cooking something separate like from my family. I can't go get ice cream whenever I want with my daughter. Like I can't go like, and I just, realized I was like, this is just not at this point in my life who I am. And so it's like, why am I doing this then? And it was a hard decision to make because there's always then that, how are people going to perceive me? Are they going to think that I'm lazy, that I'm not dedicated, that I'm not a hard worker? Because that was part of like, I kind of kept trying to push, but I just kept messing up. Like, and I kept, just not being wholeheartedly in. Like, we also have a very big social life. There's something going on every weekend. There's, stuff throughout the week. Like, it's just like, you know what? Like, I don't care. Like, I just, it's not something that it interested me anymore. I love bodybuilding. I love going into the gym and training hard and getting stronger, all of those things. But like, there are so many other things that I love doing. And so it was just kind of like, you know what, this is just, this doesn't vibe with who I am. And it's not what I want in life at the moment. It's not making me happy in a very real way. So why am I going to push through it?
It's like trying to just slam that square like into a round hole. And the worst part of it is that if you're in that place where like you dive into something and then it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to do it, but you decide to just push through it for like the sake of it, every time you try to like jam that through the hole, and you have those days where you just can't hit the numbers, or you just didn't get things right. The worst part is that you can, even if you're still like you're still getting workouts done, you're still putting in effort, but you're not like meeting the standard because it's just not for the right time. It can affect like your confidence and your ability to do it in the future. And it's not that you're incapable, it's just that now maybe not the right time, that we just like we need to focus on something else, you know? And so I like identifying that as soon as possible, but it sucks. I've pulled out of a prep when I was like 6 weeks out, because I got to the same place where I was like, I'm just not having fun anymore. And I was like, I'm done now.
Yeah, because I mean, I think even in something like a prep, no matter how hard it gets, if you're into it, it's fun in a different way, right? Like, and that's I remember
like
that's what it was like. Yeah, when I competed last, in 2018, right? And yeah, it sucked at certain points, but you're still like, no, I'm like, I know I can push through this. And yeah, it was just one of those things. I was like, this is not worth pushing through to stand up on stage in a little teeny. So yeah, it was just something that didn't align, and so it was time to make that decision.
I think it gets back to identity, right? And I think this is why it's so important to understand like where your identity lies, where you're at in life, be able to take that step back, because it doesn't mean that your identity won't be back to being a bodybuilder or a bikini athlete, or somebody who does whatever the things are going to take to get to the place you want to be at later on. It just means that right now you're not that person, because we are like people don't change, but like how we see ourselves and the things we do and where we're at in life absolutely changes. I'll always be a little bit of a prick. I mean, let's be real. But me being a bodybuilder has taken a back seat when that used to be the biggest thing. When I started coaching, I was like, wow, I really like coaching. This is much more fulfilling. So now, even if I still do bodybuilding, I see myself much more as a coach. That is the more important thing.
Right.
And so this is where I think we get into the, okay, we're going to fight through that. It's telling you something, right? Cool. Maybe the resilience is waiting until you're in a different place in life, when you do have the drive, when the motivation is there, when the part of the identity is there for you to actually enjoy that process, to have it be fulfilling. Instead of just saying, oh no, I want to do this because of XYZ, or because I see something out there, or I think that it's somehow going to make me this way or this person. Instead of saying, okay, well, I am this person. That person is there. Maybe I just need to not worry about trying to get on stage. I just need to continue eating normally and maintaining weight and lifting. Maybe I just need to go to the gym a couple of days a week. Maybe I just need to make it a point to have veggies on my plate at least one meal every day. I mean, so it doesn't matter where we're at, how far or, new we are to the journey, understanding that like we have a certain amount of bandwidth. There is a certain amount of gas in the tank. We need to be aware of the fights we pick, or where we want to go, and make sure that we have gas in the tank to get there. Because if we can at least we have the amount of gas to get somewhere closer, and there's a gas station there, great. We're going to go there. We're going to gas up. Then we're going to go to the next one. We're going to make smaller trips to get towards where we want to be. The same thing with life, with our goals, and like understanding you don't want to have to push your car that whole way. That's going to suck. Right? Or you don't want to just run it dry on oil. That's going to suck. Now you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of just trying to push through that, instead of understanding, hey, this is where I'm at. These things are reasonable. These things I can manage. And they're not going to leave me, one, maybe not where I want to be, and then two, with a lot more baggage than I had when I started.
I think I've said it like a million times on here since I heard it, where the phrase like the consistently good over occasionally great, like goes so far in so many things. And like, I think for a lot of people who maybe don't kind of know like where they're at with their goals or their fitness, or they're trying to figure out that identity with stuff, or they're in a shift or something, that sometimes just kicking that can down the road and kind of doing all of the things that interest you, like with a nice little mixture, and just enjoying yourself and working on getting better at them. Like with all of my clients, even if they just want to run for fun, sometimes I'll be like, okay, but I still would like, I know I have more of those vibe, tribe, all of that, right? I'll be like, okay, I still want it to be easy, but let's accomplish 0.02 more distance. Like somehow I want to still always be moving forward and like moving the needle, but we can still make super consistently awesome progress across the board by being like 75% in. Like really, the big problem is not that people are dilly-dallying in fitness. It's more that they are either like, they're like riding an elevator. They're getting on and off, and they're changing what's going on between the times that they're on the elevator. And we're not just continuing with like the basics of stuff. And if you continue with that foundation and just work on pushing yourself to whatever degree works right now, maybe it's time to go hardcore and we want to see PRs. Maybe we're just continuing to get there, but like that will keep you going. And that is enough to check the boxes. And you're still miles ahead of like most Americans.
And like understanding also that like,
And Canadians.
And Canadians. Sorry,
Canadians.
President.
And understanding that like, if you're making progress and it doesn't feel hard, and you're like, because I can't tell you how many people I've had with this one.
Yes.
Like, this doesn't feel hard enough. It feels like I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, but your waist measurement's down, your weight's down, you have more energy, you're sleeping better, you're stronger than you've ever been. How is it not right? Everything that we have as an actual data point says this is absolutely the right thing. But inside in here, because we're not making it more difficult, we feel like it's wrong somehow.
Right.
And that's what we have to get out of the mindset of. That, we're just always having to do something that's difficult and hard, or make it more difficult than it needs to
Extra.
be. It's the glorification of the grind.
Right.
Who the fuck cares? Like, if you can get where you want to be, and it's like, yeah, I had to work for it, but definitely not the roughest thing ever. Isn't that a better place to be than having to just claw your way for every inch?
Hey, they like never put the Enterprise at warp 9. It's just a bad idea. It's, you're going to burn out. So
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
I love all the references here. This is good.
Rough. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a rough day for the cool kids.
Hey, Jess isn't here. She never gets anything. Love you, Jess. She's on vacation. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like,
guys.
it's just that thing. So, like, be
Yeah.
okay with slow progress. That's just reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's really, really putting the life part into lifestyle, right?
Mm.
Like, this doesn't have to be something that is on your mind 24/7, 365. Like, gotta, like, it's a lifestyle. Like there's a lot of balance to it, if you will.
Calvin Klein's obsession.
Yeah.
I've talked about my client Lisa before, who her mom passed away back in October, and they were very, very close. And so this was like huge in her life. And we had just come off of doing her second season together and everything. And when we first started working together, we were just working to reduce medication that she was on. And then eventually we were able to like get her off of it. And then she became a competitor at the age of 50. So like she's had incredible results with stuff, but everything happened in October. And then we had things like her first birthday without her mom, and like funerals, and then the holidays and everything like that. I have not changed her macros since October. We're like kind of at the peak of a reverse. We haven't changed shit. Like we've had plenty of times where we just weren't tracking and stuff like that with the holidays and everything. But for the most part, we've held very steady. With her training plan, I think we've adjusted it once. And then cardio, we're at like 5 by 30. Like it's very chill. And every week she'll like fill me in on stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just hold steady. Like, let's just do it again. If this week felt good and like everything across the board looks good, let's just keep going. And like, she's still leaning into like different areas of like work and maybe moving and like all this different stuff going on in life and making progress in the gym. But it's honestly in our check-ins and stuff like that, for the most part, I want it to be like, for a long time, it was the last thing we talked about. It was more just like, how are you? Like, how was this week? Like, I know her birthday just happened. How was that? And like trying to just get through. And so like, if you're in that place where it's just like, I'll hear people say, maybe this just isn't for me. I just can't keep this up when it comes to these kinds of things. But like, dude, it totally is. And just like keep coming and hanging out with us. My gym is so empty and it makes me legitimately sad. I'm like really happy about the parking lot, but now there's nobody there when I go. And I'm like, wait.
You can have people from my gym. My gym's too damn busy.
Oh, it's so weird. Like, I'm telling you, all the good parking spots are open when I go now. And I'm like, wait, where did everyone go? And it's like all new people. It's weird. I don't know what's happening at Lifetime. So, okay, guys. Any closing thoughts?
Pee pee poo poo.
Yes. Important. Thank you.
Very, very important.
All right. You know where to find us on social media. If you got ideas or questions or anything like that, reach out to us, let us know, and we'll talk to you guys soon.